Trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor.
There is so much to get to.
The revolution about to be televised. You picked the right time, but the wrong guy.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Latoya. So we are back with another video and we need to talk about this halftime show. So I have notes on my lap, so excuse me if I gaze down every now and then, but I have a lot of things to say. There's definitely different aspects of this that I want to talk about, and I think the most important thing to really recognize about this conversation is that there's two lenses that you could look at this performance from. You could see it from a pop culture lens, or you could see it from a Black American lens. And I say that to say because of the amount of references that was brought into the performance, that was included in the performance. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this review. First thing off the bat, let's talk about how the stage was set up. So for anyone that was in the stadium, they probably recognized it right off the bat that the football field was in the shape of a game controller, which is pretty cool. But once you dive a little deeper, you realize one of two things, or maybe both. One, it's a jab to Drake because they've been having this back and forth feud and they're playing this game, right? Or secondly, it could be a reference to Squid Games. So for those that don't know, Squid Game is a Southern Korean dystopian survival thriller action television series. I didn't know about it actually before this. It was the internet that woke me the F up and they were like, sis, actually there's more symbolism to this. The square, triangle, and rectangle you see demonstrate a hierarchy. And a lot of people have been arguing that this is the hierarchy of white people constantly stealing and taking from Black people. And so it's the representation of white supremacy essentially, and the hierarchy that's embedded within that. And I was like, okay. And so the entire time he's performing in this societal structure, which is America, which exists, which is real, right? And so that was cool to see and then observe. And then now when you zoom into the actual performance, obviously we had the amazing Samuel L. Jackson narrating the whole thing. So at first I was like, this is amazing. Like, he's alluding to back then when white people would force Black people to entertain them, and Samuel J. Jackson is like mirroring that. But then as it continues, he becomes Uncle Sam essentially, and warning Kendrick Lamar, like, don't do this, behave, like, stay in this box, stay in the box.
Bubble up. No, 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 no! Too loud, too reckless, too ghetto. Mr. Lamar, do you really know how to play the game? Then tighten up!
And I find that really, really interesting because Kendrick Lamar is a part of a long line of artists who include activism within their artistry and have received backlash within the Black community about them being too political or being too racially controversial. And so it was just interesting to have Samuel J. Jackson like interrupt or narrate the entire performance in that fashion, where it's kind of like warning him like, hey, like, they expect you to like be a particular way, and if you want to stay here you have to be in a particular way, which is, it's just mirrors what has happened in society in terms of revolutionizing and for Black people to have equality. Yes, you had to protest, but was there a certain extent, you know, you have to behave in order to get certain rights, certain things done. So it was just interesting to see how that psychology and that mindset was also demonstrated throughout the performance. Another layer that was included was the amazing Serena Williams.
No.
They not like us. No. They not like us.
What?
They not like us.
No.
They not like us.
No.
They not like
The Crip Walk. They're not like us. They're not like us. What? Okay, this jab to Drake I love because and I take so personally as well, because obviously inviting Serena Williams to be there and have her little cameo shows that he's in support of Black women. And like, we already know that he's performing with SZA. Like, he's been with the same woman for like years. Like, we know that. But it just further shows his morals. It further shows his foundation. It further shows what he stands for, you know? And then another standout moment of symbolism for me was the American flag.
Yeah. Hey, I remember
how the dancers were all dressed up in one color of the American flag, and together they formed the American flag. And there were instances where it broke apart. And considering, if you look at the overall perspective and the overall performance, and you see that it is a revolution, you can tell that like when they break apart, they're exemplifying that. And then also when they were uniformed and forming the American flag, for me, it symbolized how Black people built America. And then the rip was like how Black people are going to be rewriting the constructs of America. So I'm excited to see what the ripple effect of this performance will look like as well, because even the game over at the end, like for me, I thought it was just a little extra. Like, obviously the performance is going to include jabs at Drake, but the game over was like, bam, the game's been over. Like, everyone knows that the game is over. Like, you didn't need to include that. It was a little bit too much for me. But the double meaning of that could be also that the game is over to tolerating certain things from white America. The game is over to white supremacy. The game is over to certain things. And like, we're about to start a new game, which is called The Revolution. And it happened on national television, international television. You know, like, it just further perpetuates that. And I think it's just so interesting, especially during this time where policies of DEI are being threatened, are being ripped away, jobs are being taken away, you know. I think it's just so interesting that he did that. He did that in front of Mr. Trump, you know, in front of Mr. Trump. The whole performance was a wow. Those were some of the moments that just stood out the most to me. Just observing and watching. Obviously, my favorite part was They're Not Like Us. That song's a freaking banger, and I'm so happy he ended up performing it. I don't think he really could have done that performance without the song. Like, even in my head, I was like, even if you just change the lyrics here and there, like, we still be cool with them. We know, like, if you change the lyrics, like, they're still gonna be super impactful. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm gonna be hurt because the lyrics just changed for the Super Bowl, you know? So I'm grateful that that song definitely came up. The amount of symbolism, and this was just a few. Like, I'm sure there's plenty more. Drop down in the comment sections which were some of the standout moments for you in that performance. But my one critique, or something I wish he would have done, or maybe he did and this person said no, but I would have been really nice just to see Lil Wayne. And I know the two, they don't really have songs together, but Usher had a bunch of people a part of his performance, and some of which didn't have songs with him. So like, I think just like maybe 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half, maybe just an appearance, like it would have been nice just to see somebody who's from New Orleans, who's a major hip hop act on that stage. You know, I feel like it would have been cool. But regardless, the Kendrick Lamar halftime performance was a win for Black America. It was a win for Black excellence, and like even just to have that during Black History Month as well. Like, I just think there's so much, there's so many layers to it, and I'm so grateful that it was more than just the beef between him and Drake, but he actually made a stance. He was like, okay, like, we're here and we are about to start a revolution. We're about to switch some shit up, okay? And the whole world gonna know about it. Relax. So yeah, that was obviously the Black American lens, right? But the pop culture lens, like, even though this was a huge win for Black America, I'm sure there were some people in the audience watching at home that were like, this ain't it. Like, this is so boring. Like, he's just walking. There's a bunch of dances and stuff. And, like, I guess he's moving around. He's moving around, making good use of the field. But, and also, like, a lot of those songs aren't necessarily commercialized. That's the biggest factor about the selection of Kendrick Lamar, is that his music's freaking amazing, but you don't really hear it on radio because of the amount of curse words that are embedded in it. And I'm talking from a global standpoint. I'm talking about here in Canada. No, you didn't. Oh, no, you didn't. I'm talking about here in Canada. You don't hear Kendrick Lamar on the radio at all. So I understand that this selection might have been a really iffy, especially for those who aren't hip-hop heads, who don't understand the symbolism of the performance. I understand how people can walk away and being like, yo, that was boring. I don't know what this is. Like, what are these songs? Like, you know, although Kendrick Lamar is a highly decorated artist, his music is amazing, it's phenomenal, it's meaningful, it's conscious rap, it's so good, right? And the way, and his delivery is always phenomenal. So I understand why some people would say that that wasn't really the greatest performance yet, and maybe there were some better performance, like Usher, for example, with all of the different elements that he was able to include, roller skating, all the different artists. Like, yeah, it was rap, but it was also like R&B. It was commercialized music that hit an international market, whereas Kendrick Lamar, sure, he's commercial. He's a commercial artist, sure, but you do have to go out of your way to like really hear his music. Especially a lot of those songs that he performed at the halftime show. So with that being said, I know there's been a lot of conversation around like, oh, why does the Super Bowl just like select a rock artist, for example? Like, why are they always picking these like hip hop urban acts? Essentially. And it's because of the partnership that they have with Roc Nation, one, and two, like, it's only been a few years. Like, I think it's only been like maybe at least 7 years where we're getting urban acts. Before that, it was rock music. It was like AC/DC, like it was that. So and that's been going on for years. So a little commercial break don't hurt nobody, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I mean, for this one in particular, like, yes, last year Usher's was more exciting because of the various elements that were included, but this isn't the first time where Roc Nation has influenced for a more controversial act. And maybe on a surface level, you wouldn't even consider this one controversial, but like after seeing the performance, I'm sure you would. So my reference is definitely the J-Lo and Shakira. Like, when they were selected by Roc Nation, it was a little bit politically controversial because at the time, Mr. Trump was building a wall between Mexico and America and was ripping apart families, right? So that's why choosing J-Lo and Shakira was a little bit controversial for the Super Bowl. And they didn't talk about it, but there was symbolism of that embedded in their performance when that happened as well, right? And it's only just been a couple of years since we've gotten a politically induced performance at the halftime show. So I think that's really interesting to think about when we're talking about, you know, which artists should be selected and which ones shouldn't or whatever. At the end of the day, if you look at the players on the field, my friend likes to say this all the time, if you look at the players on the field, majority of them are Black. So why can't we have Black music there, right? Like, what's the problem? Really, what's the problem? With this selection, with this politically induced performance, and DEI constantly being threatened with the current president and administration, it really does make me question how much longer is Roc Nation going to be working with the Super Bowl, because the partnership itself has been quoted and seen as an act of social activism. It's been seen as a DEI move. And so because of this, I don't know how long he's gonna have that for. And I don't know. And you can tell how there's already been defamation against Jay Z's character. Do you guys remember that rumor about him raping a teenage girl? Because that rumor came out the same day as the red carpet of Mufasa, the Lion King, where his teenage daughter was making her voice acting debut. Hello? So there's already been attacks towards his character. And then now we have this politically fused performance that was obviously influenced by Roc Nation and selected by Roc Nation during a time where we have people like Trump taking jabs at DEI. So it's getting tense. It's getting there's a lot of racial tension. There's a lot of racial tension happening right now. And it's just going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out politically. My last remark in terms of this broadcast, speaking of racial tensions. So I don't know what channel y'all watch the show on, but I watched it on Fox 5. And it was streaming. I'm based in Canada. I am Canadian, okay? It was streaming on my television. I think it might have been through the CTV network. But it was Fox 5. It was the Fox 5 feed, okay? And I did not see nor hear no Black national anthem. Was I the only one? I did not see that performance air on my television screen. Now, whether that was a decision from the control room or that was a decision from higher up, I don't know. But in these times when DEI is being threatened and minorities seem to be the problem of everything, I find it extremely interesting how I didn't hear the Black national anthem on Fox 5. Okay? And Trump was also in the house. So whether it was a person of authority or if it was just a wink or like a nudge or like some type of body language, I don't know. However, if it was in the control room, I have some experience in a control room and things have to be timed in a very particular way. So I could understand, like, if you're low on time and you just need to cut something out, you don't really know, you know what's next, but you don't really know what's next or something, or if there's some type of delay or whatever and you just need to chop off something, or if there's a commercial that was timed incorrectly and ended up being longer than expected, which is a huge problem, especially during something that's being aired across the world like that, or at least in Western society, North America. Like, that's a big issue in a control room, especially for something that's being televised and has the most amount of views in television history. Like, yeah, that's a big problem in the newsroom. So if there was some type of like in a control room. So if there was some type of control room error or malfunction, then I could give that grace. But if it was anything else, nah. Red flag, big red flag. Because what they didn't fail to do is recognize the victims of the New Year Eve Philadelphia plane crash that left 24 people injured and took the lives of 7 people. And while they did that, they also honored the first responders. So they didn't fail to recognize the first responders and all the victims of the family, which I think was an amazing moment. But I think it's also equally important to air the Black national anthem. And I think when you see one instead of one and not the other, it does have a psychological impact on the individual who's watching. Because for me, both moments are very important. And to me, when you're thinking about this time, political time of Trump, when Black lives and minorities, their lives and their rights are being threatened, and you're honoring first responders in such a public way across North America, but you don't air the Black national anthem, it sends a message. It sends a message, and since we're all watching this, it goes into our psyche. And so I think there's a lot to really consider when we're watching these things. You know, at the end of Kendrick Lamar's performance, he said, "Turn off the TV."
They yakking bad, but somebody gotta do it. Got my owner, but some gotta tell the TV off, turn his TV off, turn his TV off, turn his TV off.
For a reason, right? Now, I think it's important to note that, like, I'm not American. I'm not American. But we're in a very politically tense time, and there was nothing about that performance and the Super Bowl that wasn't political. There was several political moments, whether they were strategic or not. They will play a role, and they will have a ripple effect on culture. And I'm curious to see exactly how it will play out. But until then, those are all my thoughts. I would love to hear from you guys. What were some of your takeaways from the performance? Were you wowed? Were you in awe? Were you like, this was boring as hell? I can't believe I took 10 minutes out of my life to watch this. What was your opinion? Because I definitely do understand both perspectives, especially as a Canadian. You know, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you enjoyed this review. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. I'd love to hear and read them, and we'll chat again soon.